Everything's coming up to Timberwolves. Yeah, in the zone. Simple dedication to the team when you're in the know. To Timberwolves. Yeah, in the soul. Lifting all the positivity for the Wolves to grow. So, where we going from here, man? We listen week to week to get the clearest to clear. Recaps, got that. Soundcap, got that. Team ads, got that. So tell me what they do not have, huh? How dare you? Foolish question to ask, but I don't mean to go brag. But boy, they got all the stats, and they could go all the way back from KG to Zerbiak. And all I'm saying is that the cast a one-stop shop for my Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Ain't a thing falling, everything's coming up. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Falling from the autumn, ain't nobody gonna stop them. It's the Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Phonies, you can spot them, they the sheep under their clothes. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Talk a lot about them, y'all don't really know. Let's go.
Welcome in to another Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. My name is Gabe Anderson, and we are at the beginning of a brand new season, right? Pretty much getting very close to a brand new season, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
Doing good.
Awesome. And we're always joined by Jared Good. Jared, how we doing?
Doing wonderful. Getting really excited for basketball right around the corner, man. I mean, we're like a week away now almost. So
yeah, absolutely.
Always fun to get into the swing of things at the beginning of the season and have fresh life, especially for a Wolves fan who had a promising end of the season but knew we weren't going anywhere. So it's good to have a fresh start and see what we can do this year.
Absolutely. And we have some special guests tonight. We are joined by Leroy. Leroy, how you doing?
All right, man. Excited about the season. I can't believe has the off season. Did that happen? Just playing basketball.
Nothing really.
And we are also joined by Donovan Trump. Donovan, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I can't wait for next Wednesday.
Yeah, we're close to it. We're recording this on a Tuesday night. Not sure when you're seeing this, but we are getting closer and closer to the season. So let's just jump right into it. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. This is the season preview, we're going to call it. So let's just get right into it with the first question. Where do you think the Wolves finish in the West and why? And we'll start with you, Chris. What do you think? Where do you think we finish in the West?
I'm just going to go with roster as is. I would say 9th.
Okay.
I'd say 8th. I'll say 8th because I think at the end of the year, they're going to start playing Nas at the 4, and that'll push us up.
I like that. Let's go, Leroy. What do you think? Where do we finish in the West?
This was an interesting one for me. All right, so let me think about. All right, I got a couple things. I think Dallas is gonna go down a notch this year, so that opens up things a little bit. However, Golden State with Clay back, they're gonna win a few more games without a doubt. That's no questions asked there.
Top 4 probably.
Yeah, I can see them. I think last year they were near 40. They'll be closer to 45, 50 this year with Clay coming back if that timeline's right. So I think the Wolves will win. Pretty easily 35 games. This team's competitive. They can win any game that they play. They're that talented. I think that, it's going to come down to can they get stops? And that's really going to be the theme of the year is can they get stops when they need stops? I think offensively, we just have so many weapons. When you look at Noel, when you look at Naz Reid, when you look at Cat, D'Lo, Ant, McDaniels, these guys are, I think, you couldn't ask for more offensive firepower. We have so much on the offensive end. I think that carries us, but the question is, can D'Lo stay on the floor and get stops? Can McDaniels stay on the floor and get stops? He's, if we're going to play Cat and McDaniels next to each other, it's going to be tough. But then if you play Reed, you also have the perimeter issue, right? So I think it all comes down to defense for the Wolves this year. And, Cat said it just a couple of days ago, it's time to stop talking and walk it. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Donovan, what do you think? Where in your mind, where do the Wolves finish in the West?
Probably somewhere around the 9 seed. They should be contending for a play-in game. They should end up somewhere around the 500 mark. I think Leroy nailed it. It's all going to come down to if they can get stops, and I am a little more optimistic about that this year when you add guys like Patrick Beverley, and you've already seen the impact he's had on this team, especially defensively. That's what it's all going to come down to.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Jared, what do you think?
So I'm going to be a little bit higher than you guys, but not by a ton. As the roster sits, I'm going to say 6 to 7 seed, so kind of in that same range. But you guys know me, and you guys know what I'm all about. So I'm all about that Ben Simmons possibility. And I think if we land something like that, I think that elevates this team to a 4 or 5 seed. So I do feel like this team is going to have a lot of success this year. Only a Timberwolves fan would talk about the preseason, and I'm a Timberwolves fan, so I'm going to talk about the preseason. But hey, we're 3-0 right now. In the preseason, D'Lo looks phenomenal right now in the preseason from the little bit of snippets that I've seen. I haven't watched a ton of preseason basketball. I don't get me wrong. I'm not lining up on a Wednesday night to watch the Timberwolves play a preseason game. But
kick them out.
Get
them off the podcast.
Get out of here.
It definitely is looking promising for the Timberwolves. I'm very excited with what I've seen, especially with D'Lo. I mean, D'Lo has looked unbelievable in the first 3 preseason games, in my opinion, from the little bit of that I've watched, and that's very promising because we have kind of talked about whose team this is going to be, and my answer was kind of whoever grabs the microphone at the end of at the press game conference, at the end of the press game, whoever grabs the microphone, that's whose team it's going to be. And to me, D'Lo kind of looks like he's about ready to make that leap to be like, hey, if this ain't going to be anybody else's team, I got that it factor, and it's going to be my team. And that's kind of like even through preseason, which is kind of crazy to talk about a guy meaning so much in preseason, but D'Lo has looked absolutely incredible this preseason.
He has looked good. And I think when it comes down to D'Lo, it honestly just comes down to if he's hitting his shots. Like it really, like he does more. He's a crafty passer as well, but a lot of it comes down to just hitting his shots. For me, I got him in the 8-9 range. Just looking at the Western Conference, it's so tough. I mean, Utah, Phoenix, Denver, LA, both LAs, they're both going to be there. It could go either way with Dallas. I don't know, but Luka keeps doing his thing. Portland's always there. And then you get down to the play-in, right? So you got the Lakers, which they're going to move up, like for sure. They'll absolutely move up this year. They're not going to be back in the play-in unless there's injuries again. Memphis, Golden State. Now, I think Golden State goes up, particularly with Klay Thompson coming back. I think they move up. And I don't know. I see us 8-9 because I don't think the Spurs are going to do anything this year, particularly with DeRozan gone, Aldridge gone. I don't see them doing much. I got 8-9 range, the play-in game. Now, do you guys, and anyone can answer this, do you guys like the play-in format, or would you rather be fighting for an 8 seed?
I'll start first. I love the play-in format just because it extends the playoffs in a way, and I kind of spoke about this last year. When a team like the Wizards, I don't remember how they did when they got there, but like that's an exciting team that you want to see play in a playing game. Like you have Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook against the world. They can't play defense, but boy, they're exciting to watch on offense.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of something that I loved about the play-in format. Outside of that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things where like you see a team that isn't going to normally make the playoffs, but if they get to that 10 seed, could have a nice, exciting game.
Yep. Go ahead, Chris.
Even more than the playoffs, I kind of like it because it extends the regular season. I mean, we saw last year there was high-end teams that were playing hard the last 4 or 5 games for seeds,
Mm-hmm.
So there's been times, I play fantasy basketball, and there's times when the last couple weeks of the season, all the stars are being sat. Like, it's just really hit or miss on who's going to be playing, but it got to be, live or die by 1 or 2 games to either make or not make the play in, to try to get a sure spot in the playoffs opposed to do the play-in. So I like it. It keeps people hungry, and I like it when those old vets got to play hard all the whole season. That was good to see the Lakers do that.
Yeah. See, I don't think I don't like it, right? I don't like it for this very simple reason. I feel like the little break, the little window between in the last 10 games of the season, that little breather that everybody gets, for me, it's refreshing. I like the idea of guys working hard all year, getting their seed set. Once you're at 6, you're at 6, you're in the playoffs. All right, now it's time to rest, play some of the young guys. We get to see some of the young guys get out there on the floor, right? It's kind of like in baseball, you throw all the prospects out at the end of the year just to get them, see what you got, see what you're working with. I like that. I like the older guys getting refreshed and then going into the playoffs hard, refreshed, ready to go, rather than fighting and I don't
tired
know.
legs.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, so it's funny that you bring up baseball, because I was just going to make this point. One thing that I hate about baseball is they play 162 game regular season schedule, and then you have a 1-game wild card. Like, dude, you play so many games just to be in that spot and then be eliminated in 1 game, and I absolutely hate that. And I kind of think I believe the NBA is kind of similar. Like the 10 seed, if they win, they have to win twice or something like that. I don't remember the exact format, but I believe that's what it is. And I hate that. You play so many games to have it all come down to 1 game, basically. So I don't like that part of the play-in format.
Although I'll come back. You were talking about the 10 seed, but
You're a 10 seed.
Yeah. If you're a 10 seed, you wouldn't have anything to play for anyway. So it's almost like more life. I'm thinking more for like the 7 seed or the 8 seed that has to play for their life. It's a little different. Like for example, like 2017, the Jimmy Butler year. Imagine if the Wolves. Well, first of all, that Denver Minnesota game wouldn't have been for as much, because it would have just been for who's 8-9 and who's 9-8. So
yeah.
So that wouldn't have happened. And yeah, so we wouldn't have had maybe we would have beat. Who do we have had to beat? Who was the 7th seed in 2017? It wasn't like the Suns it wouldn't be the Suns.
Trailblazers, maybe?
Yeah, probably so we'd have to beat the Trailblazers and then probably had to play Denver again to make the playoffs. So it's a whole different thing, because we don't play well against the Trailblazers. We know that. So
we don't play very good versus anybody.
except the Jazz last year.
Yeah,
for some reason. Yeah. Well, go ahead, Leroy.
Well, and just one last point. I like the marketability of that last stretch, right? You know who's playing who. You can start marketing that stuff. Fans can start getting excited about it. Like, I really like the build up to the playoffs. It is like, like the counting the days and, finally it's here and you're ready to go. I like that a lot. I really appreciate that part.
Yeah, no, I do too. So let's move on to this, and you guys can all take a stab at this. Do you think the Wolves still have a big move on them, in them? And I know we've talked about this in past podcasts. I know there's one particular big name out there who seems to be getting a lot of media attention, and it might be consoling things with his current team, but who knows what's going on there. Do you think the Wolves still have a move in them? And we'll start with you, Donovan. What do you think? Or do you think the team is just going to be the team that they have right now?
I think there's always a slim chance that they make a big move, but right now I don't see one happening.
Yeah.
With the core they
lost him.
Yeah. Anybody else want to go in?
I'll say it. What I think might be going on is we have limited assets. we have Beasley, we have all our first round picks, and we have expiring contracts in Prince, which is like 14 million, and Beverly, which is like 14 million. I think what it'll be is those assets will be on the table. And if we can get somebody good for that, we'll get somebody good for that. If we can't, we can't. Like, it's kind of like, going shopping at a garage sale when you're a kid. Like, your ma gives you like $1.50, and like you go there, and that might get you something really cool, or it might get you nothing, and that's what we have. We have about $1.50, and it might get us something cool if they're trying to sell. Like, let's say, for example, there's a guy who fits perfectly in the system, and his current team completely threw him under the bus and alienated him. And he's hard to fit in with like all other rosters, and he's still making a lot. Like, if that sort of thing happened, maybe, and you could get him for that $1.50, I think we'd do it today. But if somebody else comes with $2, you're out.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go back to Donovan. I think he's back now.
Yeah. Chris kind of nailed it. We don't have that many assets. I think they really believe in the core that they have right now. And if they can eventually make a move around mid-season when some teams are more apt to sell than they are now, then yeah, they'll make a big move. I think they want to make a big move, but you can't really do anything if guys aren't trying to sell.
Right, for sure. Go ahead, Jared.
I guess we won't really know until Prince and Beverly become available to be traded. I guess, like, when I look at the offseason, I don't think Prince and Beverly were like our offseason moves to the super talented roster that can't play defense. I really don't think that was the envision that we had. But you have to remember, we've now lost our GM and we have a new GM. I don't know how fast things are moving in that office right now. I think that kind of pumped the brakes on what we were trying to do in the offseason. I think that had a big deal, a big emphasis on what we were trying to do. I don't know that Kirsten Rosas was just sitting there and then got fired, and that was like, okay, we're not going to do anything now. I still think there was stuff in play. So I guess I think my short answer is on a big move is we won't see one until Beverly and Prince become available to be traded, because I don't think they can be worked into anything as the roster currently sits. Prince might be able to, but I know Beverly can't for a little bit yet.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Leroy.
Yeah, one of the biggest factors is Philly's not trading him without getting a ball handler back. They need a point guard. They need a point guard. They cannot let go of Ben Simmons without somebody who's going to run the offense. So I think one of the biggest. So for me, I look at teams like the Hornets. I look at teams like the Celtics, teams that are middling, trying to take that next step, need shooting, or need more shooters on the floor to go with their ball handlers, to be in play for a 3-team trade. But I think the other aspect that I'm really interested in, I'd like to get your guys' response here is I think there are going to be more moves than we'd anticipate in most seasons. And the reason why, because I'm looking at these young kids coming out of college right now, and they are more skilled than kids coming out even 4 years ago. When you look at LaMelo, Zion, when you look at Zion, some of these draft picks from 2019 and back, they all kind of had flaws in their games. I mean, even Ant had this flaw in his game, which was, it doesn't really shoot the ball real well. Well, there's a lot of guys like Sadiq Bey, that kid, Sacramento's last 2 draft picks, who were both sensational. Mitchell. And what's his name?
Halliburton
and Mitchell. These guys are complete. And if you're telling me that Halliburton or Mitchell is not an asset you'd like to have in Philly, backing up Ben Simmons or starting, I'd take that in a heartbeat. I mean, these kids have complete games. So I think
GMs are going to start looking at the future as, something they got to start jumping on earlier rather than later, because these kids are going to, I think they're going to show up this season, and people are going to be a little bit surprised at how big an impact these young kids are making. So I think that's a factor in whether or not we are able to make a move, because then we can, maybe package one of these young kids who's really shining with, in a 3-team trade and get Ben that way or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Jared.
I think we got to address the elephant in the room here, and that is, what is it going to take for the Rockets to move John Wall? Because the Rockets are in basically full tank mode, and if they can pick up a couple picks through us to get to Philly, I think that kind of makes sense. I know that contract's horrible. It's the worst contract in the NBA. But if you put John Wall on the 76ers and you can find the right pieces to make that 3-team deal move work, I think that makes a lot of sense for the 76ers. It's a horrible contract. It's really bad. But, they need a point guard. So, and the Rockets are willing to sell and bring on future assets because they are in full rebuild mode. So I feel like Wall is kind of interesting on what happens there, because I will be very surprised if he is hung on to by the Rockets come week 2 of the season.
Yeah, I agree. But one thing I do want to say about the Rockets, Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. could be a nice backcourt. Like I like both of them. But go ahead, Chris.
Just to kind of circle back to some of it, Prince can be traded because we actually made that trade in last NBA season. Like it was done right at the end of the season specifically. That's why it was so early. It was before the draft, before the new NBA season started. So it was back with last year's COVID rules. So he could be traded really quick, which was why it was interesting to me why we pulled that so fast. And I think the reason was the idea was to try to use that quickly, like use that before, I think it's October 25th or 20th is when Beverly can be traded. So 10 days away. But back to the Wall thing, I think that Houston will trade him when literally anybody gives them anything for him. I think that, he's a good player. He still went like 18-8 or something last year. Like he can play, but they're not going to pay that contract, and they'd rather have young guys playing. So like if somebody's will send them $45 million in expiring contracts or something, we happen to have almost 28 with Prince and Beverly alone. I think they would do that deal in a heartbeat. I think they would do anything to get rid of him, really. And not like he's a bad guy. It's just he's going one direction and the roster's going a different direction, which is kind of like what Leroy was saying, looking for a third team. Like middle of the season, there's going to be teams that thought that they were going to be good. Let's say the Trailblazers, for example. Let's say they keep trying to put something together and it's just not working. You're not going to be a top. You're not going to win it all with your roster. You're not. So if they said, screw it, we're going to blow this up and we're going to go send Damian Lillard to the Golden State for something like the Wiseman, Kuminga, Poole, Wiggins package, and then CJ McCollum is open to be sent somewhere else for a couple expiring of ours and maybe some draft picks, and then we flip him over to Philly. Who knows? There's going to be a lot of movement because it's the NBA, and it's like there's always movement. There's always crazy stories. It's like a soap opera.
Yeah. So we were just talking about kind of like potential moves. Let's kind of move into the team that we do have, assuming that they stand put. Who do you think? Which new addition do you think makes the biggest impact this year? Like who are you most excited to see? We got Bolmero, we got Prince, we got Beverly. Who are you guys most excited to see out there, and who do you think makes the biggest impact? And anybody wants to go first? Why don't we start with you, Leroy?
Sure. It's Pat Bev. it's Pat Bev. This, I think, everything that he is, we lack. In terms of roster and in terms of attitude, like character, right? Like he's experienced. He is hard nosed. He is loud. He does not take crap from anybody. It's just everything we don't have on this roster. He is. So I think he has the most opportunity to make an impact, and give Pat Bev opportunity. What's he going to do with it? He's gonna squeeze it. He's gonna dive on the ground for it. Like that's right. His attitude. So I don't see him flubbing the opportunity to make an impact in any way. He's never been that type of player. So I think it's Pat Bev kind of hands down.
All right, go ahead, Chris.
I'm gonna go the same way. Although, man, I was watching Prince play yesterday, and he's faster than I thought. I mean, I know he's 6'7" or whatever, but he was moving quick out there. Like he looks good. But it's still gonna be Pat Bev, and I think a lot of it is I think he's gonna be able to hold D'Lo accountable. D'Lo's always kind of been his own thing, and I'm going to take these 40-foot jumpers with, 21 seconds in the shot clock. I'm going to, kind of do whatever I want, kind of vibe. And you're not going to say anything to me because I'm this like melancholy, like, sassy guy. Like, nobody really bothers me. I love him, but he's got that vibe to him. And I think, I don't think Pat Bev is going to stand for that, because he's so professional. So I think he's going to hold even guys like him accountable that were kind of like Rubio. I don't think could talk down to D'Lo. I don't think that. I mean, not to pull the race card, but the little Spaniard talking to D'Lo in the locker room. I don't think that works, to be honest. And I think that Beverly being a dude who's been through it and been in the grind, I think it does work. So I think it's Beverly, and I don't know if it's that close.
You said that Beverly is professional. He's professional until he gets with Chris Paul, obviously. But yeah,
you're making it sound like that wasn't intentional. That might be part of his profession. Some people's profession is exactly that.
That's true. That's a good point.
The best Wolves ever's profession was exactly that. Sorry to
yes.
No, you're good.
Beverly just reminds me of like the enforcer you would always get back in the day to come protect your stars. Like I think back to the whole Cat and Embiid thing and how like nobody came to help Cat when him and Embiid were wrestling around and all that. And I just think that would have never flown with Patrick Beverly on this team. Like he would have been in there in the mud with both of them. Like he would have let Ben Simmons get close to the Cat on that play. Like it just wouldn't have happened.
It would have been like Van Gundy up on Patrick Ewing's leg, dragging him.
Yeah. And I think you guys kind of nailed it on what he brings to the team. I'm more curious to see how he's going to rub off on Ant, because at the end of the day, this is all going to come back to Ant. He's going to be the one that I think kind of pushes this team to the next level, and getting a hard-nosed pit bull like Pat Beverly, I want to see how Ant reacts to him and if he rubs off on Ant a little bit that way and brings that dog out. Like we've seen Ant go to that place before. We've seen Ant hit that next gear. Can Pat Bev keep him locked in there?
Yep. And yeah, it's going to be interesting because for all intents and purposes, from what we heard, Ricky Rubio was kind of the mentor for Ant, but maybe Beverly can bring something different to the table, a different kind of mentorship, maybe where you can take the next level. Jared, who are you excited to see? Is it Beverly? Is it Balmero? Is it someone else?
So I purposely let everyone else go before me because everybody who knows me knows what my answer is. It's Pat Beverly because he plays defense. That dude is a dog, like everyone just previously said. He's a professional, and he's at a point in his career like he ain't gonna mess around with losing. Like if we start losing, he's gonna be in people's ear, and that's what this team needs. We don't need we scored 110, but we lost by 10. Like, we don't need that attitude in this room anymore. And that's exactly what Pat Beverly is going to address if we have that issue. But Pat Beverly plays defense, and that's the biggest problem on the Timberwolves. He's a veteran leader. I think Pat Beverly fits great on this team if he stays. He's one person that looking towards like futuristic deals that I would like almost want to keep just because I love him so much. Like if Pat Beverly's not on your team, you hate him because he's in everyone's ear. He's always causing problems. He's like if he's not on your team, he's a guy you hate. Well, guess what? He's on our team. So we're all gonna love him and enjoy how he plays the game.
Before we go to Leroy, I just want to say one thing I love about Patrick Beverly is he's not Jared Culver or Juancho Hernangomez, because that's all we had to do to get Patrick Beverly. So, and I'm pretty sure that the Grizzlies got rid of. Did they got rid of Juancho? Right? Did they get rid of Culver?
Culver, I saw, was shooting 100% from 3 in the preseason.
Nice, good for him. Whatever, good riddance.
He goes 2 of 2.
Nice. All right, Leroy, go ahead.
Jared Culver, I just watched the Grizzlies highlights. He airballed the 3 already this preseason. So
well, it was after the first game.
It was terrible. It was the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, very happy that he's not either of those two. I just wanted to highlight what Donovan said. Man, Ant has every single chance to be the next just lockdown perimeter defender. And Pat Bev has every key that you need to get there, right? Ant is going to be a 2 steals a game guy without a question. He's long, he's quick, he has every tool that you need to be that guy, and we've already seen glimpses of it, man. I just wanted to highlight Donovan's comment. It absolutely is. I want to see how Pat Bev teaches this kid how to play defense and how to bring it every single night, because we all know Pat Bev's idol. KG, so
right. Chris, go ahead.
So, on a flip note, who Pat Beverly, I think his first idol, he said was Paul Gasol, which is crazy. And you know what? Truthfully, Paul Gasol, when he was in Memphis and KG, they weren't that different. Those dudes were both kind of do it all kind of dogs. But talking about Edwards. So I was watching the last preseason game, and I had never seen him get through screens the way that again, it's preseason and we know that, but that's all we have. But he was getting through every screen, getting skinny and sliding through. It was different, man. It's different. He's playing different. And a lot of it's a system. We've got a system now that is using our athleticism, and we got a chance at being real solid, if not pretty damn good at defense. And I'm excited for that. Except we need size. We are probably the smallest team in the NBA right now, so that's not good.
Yeah, and let's go. Let's kind of topple or kind of reach on that a little bit. So we've seen this preseason. We've seen Coach Finch kind of mess with different starting lineups, and obviously we think, I think in general, there's 4 guys who will for sure be in the starting lineup. But let's go with what's your ideal starting lineup for this team? Who would you put at the 5th spot? Not necessarily at the 5, but the 5th starter for you. And we'll start with you, Chris. What's your ideal starting lineup?
Well, are we starting Beasley or McDaniels?
In my mind, McDaniels. But if you think we should go Beasley, that's fine too.
I'm starting Naz Reid, dude. I'm starting Naz Reid.
I love it.
I would have started him last year. I think with the system we have, where you're relying on those wings, you're relying on your small forward and your shooting guard to be dropping down and kind of covering the corner on those threes. I think you can have 2 bigs, and I do not think we will win more than 25 games if Naz Reid or some other big that's not on our roster doesn't, or maybe Vanderbilt, but we need rebounding, dude. We're terrible. Like I said, we're like the smallest team in the NBA, I think, statistically. And it didn't help that Cat lost 25 pounds. I mean, it might not hurt, but we can't rebound, and we were all excited because we beat the Pelicans by 3 points, but they didn't have Zion and they didn't have Valanciunas, and that right there is 25 boards. Like we man, we're just too light. We're just too little. We gotta have size, and I would say if we're not starting Naz Reid, we better be starting Vanderbilt and McDaniels, or Vanderbilt and Prince, because rebounding is going to soon be defense, where everyone's going to say that's the big problem. No longer will it be defense. It's now going to be rebounding, where we're going to get beat 10 to 15 rebounds a game every game, the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Donovan, what do you think? Did you agree, or what do you think?
You got to add some size, and I prefer Nas to Vando, and it's more of an offensive thing for me in that way, because Vanderbilt in the post just absolutely kills your spacing offensively. It kills Cat's driving, it kills D'Lo getting to the rack, which he doesn't really love to do anyways. It kills Ant, which we saw last year when they started packing the paint on him. You can't have a guy like Vanderbilt just sitting short corner or getting all the way out to the corner, because they don't respect it. So I would probably lean Nas, and it's mainly because I'm just a giant Nas homer. Like, he's a guy I love pre-draft. He's a guy that has obviously put in the work for what he's become. I just think he adds the most offensively. Defensively, he's taken some strides, and I definitely think he does need to work on his rebounding, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Jared, go ahead.
Chris nailed it when he said that this team lacks rebounding. In the short sample size that we've seen this preseason, we've been out-rebounded in the first game by 8, out-rebounded in the second game by 13, and we actually won the rebound battle against the Clippers, but by a minimal margin. But you got to remember,
minus 2 All-NBA players, mind you.
That's what I was going to get at. You don't have Kawhi Leonard, who grabs about 15 a game when he's in there. Like that dude. Okay, that might be a little bit exaggerated, but like that dude is a beast when it comes to being down low and grabbing rebounds. But as far as the power forward position, I tend to agree. I think it's going to be a mix of Nas and Vando. I would love to see Nas. I know we talked about this a little bit last year. His conditioning. We're looking at him getting 25 minutes a game, probably max. Like he's got a little bit of a conditioning issue, but it's ramped up every single year. Like that's something that he's worked on, and I think that's something that's worth talking about. He went from playing like 10 to 15 minutes a game to like 15 to 25. Like depending on what the team needed. Nas has worked his butt off to be where he's at, and he's on the best contract in the NBA, as Chris would say. So, and when you look at Vando, like I love Vando's game because he plays defense, which anybody that plays defense on this team I'm all about. But like you can get that off the bench in sporadic things, like. Just because I love defense doesn't mean I think we should start Josh Okogie. Like that's a completely different thing when we're talking about defense. But like if you can get it in spurts off the bench, he's the perfect guy for that. So I think you're going to see a mix of Nas and Vando as their current roster sits.
Mm-hmm. Leroy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a Jaden McDaniels guy. I think Jaden has shown flashes of where the NBA is going, in my opinion. Right. So he's got more of the handle, more of the decision making. I think he's also just a little he's got more of the defensive sets down. He's in the right place a little more often than Nas, which I really like. I think Nas can get to where Jaden is, and I definitely agree. We definitely need rebounding. But I'm kind of a do what you do. Kind of do what you do kind of guy. And what the Wolves can do with their current roster is they really can give teams serious fits with their athleticism between Jaden, Ant, And then they've got some good shooting. They've got D'Lo, they got Beasley, so I would go D'Lo, Beasley, Ant, Cat, Jaden probably. And that's just because I think that's the lineup that presents the most problems, the most like modern NBA problems, like the problems that you want to give other teams. That lineup gives other teams in terms of shooting and stretching the floor, and then getting up and down the court as well. So I think I'd lean Jaden, but I definitely hear what you guys are saying with Nas. He's not a bad. I mean, either one I wouldn't be mad at. The only question is, I think, with Nas is, how well does he move on the perimeter is the really big question. And I get that, we want to be able to get rebounds, but if we can't protect the rim and, are leaving big guys on an island and, people are roaming in the paint, then we've got other issues.
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is Nas is a pipe dream in reality because he's never played power forward. He's played like a total of like 30 minutes next to Cat, even though they keep saying we got to do that more. We got to do that more. I mean, I saw a simple pick and roll, and Cat and Nas both jumped on both jumped on the ball handler and left the Zubac or whatever the big Clipper dude was. I mean, he just doesn't know what he's doing as a power forward right now because he doesn't play it. Leroy, what about this lineup? What about if you had McDaniels and Prince both in there? So I think Prince is an above average rebounding small forward. And I think McDaniels is a below average rebounding power forward, but still like a decent rebounding small forward. So it'd be like having two good rebounding small forwards in there. You would still have, decent shooting and movement. I think that would work. Yeah. I mean, I know that Beasley's put on about 20 pounds, it looks like, but I don't think that was the kind of weight you want. I don't think that's to bulk up and rebound. So I don't know. Maybe if if he loses 15 to 20, we'll see him in the lineup. But right now, he's not in my lineup.
I think that's a great point. So I completely actually just blanked on Prince, but if you think about guys who understand defensive concepts, right? Who's going to bring the most value in terms of preventing defensive breakdowns, being in the right spot, rotating when you need to rotate. Like Prince is the choice.
Open shot.
Yeah, I think you don't lose anything, and you don't lose much in shooting with Prince out there, and you gain a lot defensively because of his awareness. If you're going between Beasley and Prince, so I think that honestly, in my eyes, I feel like I've underrated that pickup.
So did I, because I remember I liked him in the beginning of his career, and then he kind of was bad. Like he shot a lot and didn't make a lot, and he just wasn't what I thought he'd be. And now maybe he's starting to turn that corner after he said, he got his procedures that he was waiting on kind of thing. But man, I was really impressed with the little bit I saw him. I mean, not his stats, but just like watching him on the court, I was like, oh man, he's covering a lot of space. Like he was doing things that McDaniels does, and almost like interchangeably. And I'm like, that would be fun to have both of those.
Limited minutes, but you're talking about stats for Taurean Prince. He did shoot 41% from three last year. Yep. So we got to remember that. And I guess only 40% from the field, but obviously he was hurt a lot last season. But let's go this way. So if the Wolves are going to make a return kind of to the postseason, or who's going to be the biggest key? Like who does it fall on? Is it going to be D'Lo making shots? Is it going to be Cat doing his thing? Is it going to be Ant, or is it someone else? We'll start with you, Jared. What do you think?
I think this team 100% goes with the beat that D'Lo brings. D'Lo is 100% the X factor on this team. Some people might say, what D'Lo is going to bring, what Ant's going to bring, what Cat's going to bring, and choose a role player. But D'Lo has that ice in his veins, game on the line, clutch factor for me anyways. But Outside of like those three big guys, I think the key guy is the guy we just talked about is Torian Prince if he stays on this team. I think he has a lot of ability to fill a hole that we have, at the 3/4. I think he can play heavy minutes. Coming out of Baylor, this was a guy I loved. I remember watching him in college, and his game kind of didn't translate to the NBA. He was kind of like a super athlete that just like didn't really have a whole lot going for him. But he started shooting well. Like we just mentioned, he shot 40+% from three. I think that his role on this team fits what we are trying to do. We're trying to play fast. We're trying to shoot threes. We're trying to play a little bit of defense, not much, just a little bit. But at the end of the day, when the game's on the line, I want the ball in D'Lo's hands, and I trust the ball in D'Lo's hands at the end of the game, which is crazy when you have a talent like Cat. It's crazy to say, but D'Lo is the guy that is going to make this team beat this year.
What do you think, Leroy?
So I'm actually just a point. I'm actually on the other side. I think I want to see. All right, so D'Lo came into the Lakers, and I forgot who his coach was, but I think whoever his coach was decided to run him at the 2 more often because D'Lo's actually super talented when it comes to getting open and running play sets. He's super smart, great passer, and so I'd like to see the Wolves do more of that. I want to see the ball in Ant's hands. I want to see every team's doing it. You don't take the ball out of your best player's hands, especially when he's a wing player. So for me, I really want to see the ball in Ant's hands a lot. I don't want to see us making the mistake that we did with Levine and Wiggins, which was we took the ball out of their hands. We didn't have them running PNRs. They never really developed their handle or their passing abilities. And, lo and behold, 5 years later, they all of a sudden they're like, yeah, actually, we got to have Wiggins run the PNR. And, in one off season, he looked a little better, right? So I want to see Ant just run it. I know he's going to run it a bunch, so it's really kind of a moot point. He's going to have it. They're both going to have it. But for me to get to the point, I'm really interested to see what Jalen Noel does this year. I'm really interested to see what Jordan McLaughlin does this year. These are two guys that I think both have special talent. Like Jordan is unbelievably efficient. Like he is one of the most efficient guards in the league in terms of assist to turnover ratio. His assist percentage for his minutes is like astronomical. It's insane. Like I forget what it is, but it's a very low, he's got low minutes, low usage, and his assist percentage is ridiculous.
Because he played with Nas.
Right. Well, yeah, when Nas is rolling, anybody looks good. But and then Jalen is just, I think these guys in the second unit, and that's really encouraged me this preseason. This second unit has been killing it. They've been really giving teams a lot of problems. So I'm excited. I think the second unit is going to be kind of to cheat the answer. The second unit is going to be the most important player. But specifically, I think it's going to be, Jalen Noel / Jordan McLaughlin. I want to see these guys. Obviously, the stars are going to be this. And that's the thing. Ant's going to be Ant. Cat's going to be Cat. D'Lo's going to be D'Lo. I don't expect these guys to have a hiccup year out of nowhere, right? I feel like Ant can give you 22, 23, 24, 25 in his sleep. Cat, same thing. D'Lo, same thing. So, yeah.
Chris, go ahead.
Just to piggyback on Leroy a little bit there, at Ohio State, D'Angelo Russell played 2 guard. He played with almost all his minutes with I think a 5th-year senior, 4th-year senior point guard who kind of stirred the drink and just let D'Lo be the splash who would, they get it to him and he'd still make good passing, still make good shots, still make good plays. But my guy is Jaden McDaniels. I think he is either going to be good or going to be nothing. Like, I'm afraid that not nothing. I'm afraid that he's going to be Torian Prince long term, for whatever that's worth, good or bad. Like, that's a very real possibility if he doesn't take a step up. We've been all wanting it, and we're seeing these flashes, but and there's not a lot of room for him to eat. I know, because so much is being taken up, but he's going to have to find his own way in that starting lineup, or as maybe a focal point in the second unit if he gets kind of, because obviously it's not like a hockey where you shift a whole line. But I think he needs to assert himself as, no, I also am somebody. Because it's very possible right now that he's going to fade into the background and just be a guy who hits some corner shots and, plays decent D. And that's fine, and you'll have a long career doing that. But I want to see him take that next step where it's like, holy cow, we now have another legit near all-star type talent coming up coming up. So we'll see. But that's my guy. I'm afraid that Jalen Noel and McLaughlin are going to be getting about 8 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Because most rosters go 8 or 9 man deep, and just when you start counting off guys, McLaughlin's not playing over Beverly, and how many minutes is D'Lo not going to play? So just adding numbers, there's not much left.
Right. Jared, go ahead.
I want to bring up just a random question. It's not on our outline. We kind of follow an outline with our shows, but I want to poll the room. What do you guys think if Beasley is stuck on this team? I don't know if "stuck's" the right word, but if Beasley is on this team, what do you think his role should be? Should he start? Should he come off the bench? I'm more in the let him be the flamethrower guy off the bench and let him shoot kind of guy. But I kind of want to pull the room because I feel like if we are at a point where Beasley's on this team, what do we want to do with him? Because I feel like he was a lot of our trade value assets.
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. I think particularly you got to have let's see. Yeah, I think you got to have a shooter off the bench, and I don't know if the Wolves really have a quantified shooter off the bench. And I see him coming off the bench and being that 6-man, defensive-minded kind of player. So yeah, I'll go off the bench. Donovan, what do you think?
So the issue with Malik Beasley is when you put him with the second team, unless you have a guy like Ant or D'Lo with him, he can't create for himself. And I guess we've kind of seen it a little bit more in the preseason of him trying to go off the bounce more. But if you go look at his advanced stats numbers, he's a really low percentile, like league average or below league average when he's on the pick and roll, when he's on the drive. Like he's almost exclusively like a catch and shoot guy, maybe take a bounce and take a shot. So that's my biggest issue. And we saw it last year when when we would stagger him with the second team and he was supposed to be the guy that kept them going, that kept the offense afloat. They would struggle with that when you wouldn't have a guy like D'Lo or Ant or somebody that can actually handle and create offensively. So that would be my concern with Beasley there. But if you can stagger him with D'Lo or something, by all means, throw him out there as our 6th man.
Mm-hmm. Chris, go ahead.
And I think that last point you had you nailed it. When it comes down to it is what does Beasley give you if he's not making shots? Like if he's not even making shots, taking shots, like literally nothing, like nothing at all. So what I think I heard Finch say, or somebody say he said, was they think that D'Lo will probably be the first sub out of the game. Beasley will be the first one in. So now it'll be Beasley playing with those guys. And then when some of those guys are subbing out, some of the guys like Ant and whoever, Cat, whoever, that's when D'Lo comes back in. And now you've got D'Lo and Beasley. So, just like they say it's positionless, it's starting to get where starters don't matter. Like, just give me the minutes. I think he needs 25 minutes, and I think, like you said, it needs to be with somebody that can also play. He can't, the luxury of having, Anthony Edwards and D'Lo both being ball handlers is they should never not have one of those on the field, on the court, like out of Anthony Edwards, well, even with Beasley, out of Beasley, Anthony Edwards, Cat, and D'Lo, we should have two of those at all times. Like, that's a really nice luxury. Those are two. You should have two 20-point scorers on the court all the time, at all times. And maybe at the end of the game, if Beasley can get back into his, how he was last year, we could maybe have 4 20-point scorers it's possible.
Leroy, what do you think?
This is a really hard one for me. I think you guys just made really great points. I love Beasley's energy, and so there's no wrong answer here for sure, because you put him in as a starter, he has the team in the right energetic state come from the get-go, right? And I think that's important. Coming out flat's a real thing, especially coming out flat when you're a team that has had like focus and energy problems in the past. That's a real thing. And having someone come in, set the tone, who's excited to get shots up. I mean, you guys remember those games that Beasley played. There was a number of them when it was electric from the jump. Yeah. And I think that's valuable. So I can go either way. I honestly can't answer the question, because the other side of it is McDaniels is a better decision maker. McDaniels is a better ball handler. McDaniels is a better defender. I mean, so it's tough. It's a really tough question. And I think, having a disciplined team off the bat's also important. So
I'm just worried about where the shots are going to come from for him in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think we're going to put an exclamation point on it there, on that tough question. We've got about an hour, so I think we're going to end it there. Donovan, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me. I love talking about Wolves. Can't wait for the season.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll for sure have you back. Leroy, thanks so much.
It's been great, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm excited for everything you guys are putting out.
It's fun, and we'll for sure have you back on as the season progresses.
Right on.
And Chris, thanks so much.
Yeah, let's do it maybe every single week. How about that?
Sure, we can do that. And Jared, as always.
Yeah, I just want to give out a message to our listeners, whether it's on Spotify or on YouTube. We're going to probably try and shoot for Tuesday or Friday weekly podcasts. We're going to be here every single week talking Wolves. So if you love what we're putting out and you love listening to us, thanks for being here, first of all. But going forward, look for Tuesdays and Fridays for show recordings. We'll be here.
Absolutely. And this is the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, and follow us on Spotify so you never miss an episode. And as always, go Wolves.
That's right.